Hi, Miss Ferrero. My subculture, as you know, is spoken word poetry. And we've been in class working so hard to figure out what is the purpose of even doing this ethnography, and that was probably the hardest part of this entire project. And I think I finally found a purpose. I wrote something up, so I'll read it off paper. The purpose of performing this ethnography is to identify the devices used uniquely in spoken word poetry and prove that the elements of reading, writing, and literature are implemented to communicate. Within the subculture, spoken word is used to communicate stories, convey and evoke emotion, and writing influences that process. That's my purpose. I feel that even though it might not be obvious, that spoken word does use reading, writing, and literature, and not in the obvious ways. I've done a lot of research and I've actually observed them, and I see that they do a lot of like reading that's nonverbal or verbal, and writing literature the same way. So through this project, I plan on proving that. And when I went to go observe the group, the first time I went to observe them, they were doing a spoken word poetry like showcase. So it was poets from all over. It wasn't just UNC Charlotte, but the people at UNC Charlotte were there, and they did showcase some of their artwork. And I thought it was really cool because it's like a family atmosphere when you go in there. It's not like you're a stranger, you sit here, or this is the audience. They don't dim the lights, first of all. It's like an intimate session, probably about 30 people in there, and the stage is not, no spotlights, no nothing. It's just an intimate microphone. People, they're not on a high stage far away. It's really like close and up close and personal. They want you to see their emotions as they're laying it out for everyone. So the second observation, I went to an actual session like where they practiced and performed their artwork amongst each other, and that's like a really intimate setting too, because the group is probably like 14 people, and a lot of them are new people, and it's like they come in, they do a lot of exercises to get their brains flowing, and as you come in there, they made me actually interact with the group. It wasn't like I could sit back and take notes. I had to like actually be in there playing the brain flowing games with them, and I had to, write my own poem and perform it as the rest of them did. Every day someone writes a poem, and you have to stand in the middle of a circle, and you have to perform it. It has to be like honest and truth. Like I had to write a poem about anything that I wanted to, but it had to be about emotion. It couldn't be about the actual facts. You know what I mean? Like it had to be how I felt rather than the actual things that occurred. So I actually have a surprise. I was going to have someone else do a poem that was actually in the subculture, but that doesn't show that I really understand and grasp the topic. So they made me write my own poem, so I'm going to perform it for you. And I don't have a name for it. It's not very long, but it is the one that I wrote and performed. It's not very good, but here goes nothing. And I don't have it memorized because it's really hard. I've done like 6 or 7 takes of this video trying to actually get the form right, and it still hasn't worked. So I'm just going to read out the paper, and hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying. You probably won't, because they told me not to be so obvious, don't be so literal. You need to have a figure of speech to your poem, because if it was so obvious, everyone could do it. So here goes nothing. As the snake bit twice, I smiled at the sun, in love with my own sin in the bowel of my soul. Awake me at dusk, release the dungeon. Cover my face with paint, stain my lips with lies. I am who you believe I am, who I despise. Believe every fabricated truth, because at sunrise the dragon will return at rest, my sin will behold. That poem is, when I performed it, I wanted to cry because I kept messing up, biting my tongue. It's not as easy as it seems. And I tried to get a rhyme. As you can see, the rhyme that I tried to have at the beginning, it's not what others do. But the poem is about basically how girls go out at night and they put on a whole nother persona. Is they go out, and at school they might be one person, but at a nightclub they're a completely different person. When I said that release the dungeon dragon, that's always a term for the devil, quote unquote. And paint my face and stain my lips with lies. It's like makeup, and girls don't look like that in real life, but that's how they go to the club, and that's how people will see them. And it's like I am who you believe, and I want to despise. Like I don't want to be that person, but at night then it's perfectly fine to be who that is. You can be whoever you want to be at night with the face full of makeup and you telling some guy your name is Ashley when it's really Amanda. You know what I mean? So that's really what I was getting at this poem. And through this process, I actually see how they communicate, because when I told this poem, girls in the middle were like, yes, honey, and they were like, preach, and they were interjecting as I was saying the poem, and they were agreeing with me, and that's how they communicate. You know what I mean? Like, if you agree with something, it's okay to say so. If you feel like the subject that I'm touching on is something that you've been through and you can relate, then it's okay to like scream to me to keep going or encore, and it's crazy because the first time I read this poem in front of them, it was completely different than me reading it to the screen right now, because it changes every time you perform it because of crowd participation, and that's something else I'm going to prove in my ethnography if I haven't already proved it. So, yeah, this is the first part of my project.